Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
And my name is Zach.
and today is the day. It is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, 2024.
Yeah, we
There's a
made it.
lot of stuff to talk about, like you're saying, Zach. But before we get started and talk about all the stuff, because there is a ton of stuff, we want to thank our awesome Patreon supporters. Hayden Hauser, Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallion, Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel, Fenwer526, Maya Morris, and Maka Tautala. Thank you so much for the awesome love and support on this Star Wars Day and every day. I consider every day Star Wars Day. When you have a Star Wars podcast, it's pretty much every day is a Star Wars Day. And we got a surprise today. I think we got the Acolyte second trailer.
We
You've
did.
seen it, right, Zach?
I did. I've only seen it once. I watched it on my TV right before I had some lunch not too long ago. But yes, I did see it.
So I left the house to run an errand right quick, and when I came back, everyone was talking about it. I was getting messages asking me who it was at the end of the trailer, and I'm like, man, there must be some leaks or something. But no, we did get that second trailer
Yeah.
on May the 4th. We're always asking for Lucasfilm to drop stuff on May the 4th, and they did today. Did you go see the Phantom Menace in theaters already?
That's tonight in a couple hours.
Okay. Because I am not sure if that's the thing that they showed during the Phantom Menace or after the Phantom
Oh,
Menace.
that's a good question.
I spoke with Colin on Thursday, and he was able to see it then, I believe.
Okay.
Could have been Friday. But he said that during the 25th anniversary Phantom Menace screening, it was a fight scene that they showed from the Acolyte. That was like the special footage. He didn't say
Oh,
anything about a
sweet.
trailer.
Okay.
So maybe there's other footage out there, but we haven't seen it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on the web or if it's going to be released here shortly. The second trailer wasn't on Disney Plus. That was kind of surprising. The first trailer was, the second trailer wasn't. If you go to our Facebook group, you can see the second trailer. I posted it this morning. But what are your thoughts on that new trailer? Did it get you more hyped, less hyped? What did it
Yeah,
do?
it definitely got me more hyped because after the first trailer came out, I was kind of like, all right, I've got no reason to like, I guess for every Star Wars project I count down the days, right? But it didn't give me a reason to like, okay, circle the calendar like this is my Star Wars project for the year. I didn't, I wasn't over the moon about it, but I had no reason to really not want to watch it. But the second trailer definitely roped me in a lot more. It seemed a little bit more action packed. You got a little bit more plot details. And I think as a trailer, it definitely did a good job of roping us, the viewers, in. How about you, David?
I think I'm still at the same level I was for the first trailer. We didn't really learn much. I think a lot of our assumptions about what's kind of going on are still the same. There was really no new revelation. The thing that we did get that we didn't have before was a better look at the villain, the presumptive
Yeah.
villain here. I have a picture here if you're watching this on video. You can kind of see the helmet. It's very Knights of Renish,
Yeah, it is.
but it has like teeth in it. It seems like it has like a mouth in the mask. I thought that was an interesting touch.
Yeah, it creeped me out a little bit. I mean, the music that they were playing kind of in the background at the end
Yeah,
there definitely did a good job of, I guess, signifying that that's a villain.
yeah. And I'm gonna bring up the trailer here if I can find it here. So, any other thoughts on the trailer?
I definitely liked just seeing all the lightsabers. We saw a lot of lightsabers in the first trailer, but seeing the red lightsaber, I believe we also saw it in the first one. Seeing it again in the second one, I just really liked the shot that we got of the. I guess you could say the acolyte, right? Is that a fair assessment of the villain at the end? Is that who we are to presume to be the acolyte, or would that be um, the I guess the rogue Jedi that's kind of
Yeah, Manla Stenberg.
Yeah,
That's who I thought was the acolyte, essentially, who they were referring to. But yeah,
sure.
this dark figure might be the titular character. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I'm gonna bring up the trailer. Hopefully, we don't get banned from YouTube here. Let me try and bring this up, and we can watch it and comment on it.
Sweet.
Last night, a Jedi was murdered.
So we knew about hunting for Jedi.
Yep. I like that shot right there. Yeah. Daphne Keene.
Justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace. But that peace is a lie.
Carrie Ann Moss with the saber.
Yeah.
Jedi are being hunted.
See, we knew that the Jedi are being hunted.
Yep. What is that right there?
I think it's a saber, like cut in half or something, right?
Yeah. It looks like it. And I
And
wonder
maybe-
what that red is around it.
The inner workings. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I don't know. Looks like two lights. I was gonna say maybe kyber crystal, but
Yeah.
She was
and you can see right there that's what is Maul species called?
Oh, a Zabrak.
Zabrak, yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I think, is that other order of not really like mystics, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, this is a flashback, definitely, of the
Yeah.
main character there, Amanda Stenberg, with her master soul.
Because his hair's longer, like in the real time, right?
Right, and I mean, he's talking over this and explaining that she was his apprentice, essentially.
There he is. Yeah. That kick reminded me of the Matrix.
Yeah, Vernestra Rowe.
That right there. What is that?
I have no idea.
That looks cool.
More space stuff.
Yeah, close quarter space stuff. That's pretty sweet. That's very Lord of the Rings-esque right there.
Yeah, I like that character too that's running in the front.
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost has like a long. I was gonna say a long nose like Watto, but
Oh, sure.
what is that black dot on her face? I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know.
Destiny is not decided for you by an anonymous force. If you want to pull the thread, it'll change everything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look at that. It's
Almost looks like Venom.
yeah, like
the mouth.
yeah, like Alien, like the symbiote from Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of draws on a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks like if you look at the back of the helmet, it looks a lot like Kylo Ren's helmet.
It really does.
I mean, this might be the first Knight of Ren, possibly.
Yeah.
The guy who started it all.
That's cool.
So June 4th, 2 episodes.
Sweet. And there's 8 total, right? Or is it
Yes,
6?
I believe so. I believe it's
Okay.
8. Could be 6. I'm not sure.
So no, Obi-Wan was 6, and I think the rest of Andor was 12, and then so I guess there's all kinds of variations, but yeah, no, that trailer definitely got me a lot more excited for the Acolyte because of the shot that we got right here of this unknown figure.
Right.
That definitely got me way more excited.
And it's really hard to tell what the if this is male, female, what the gender is.
Yeah, or if it's human.
Yeah. Don't know any of that. That
Yeah.
first shot that we got where it's kind of standing off of the distance.
Like on the rock.
Yeah, on those rocks.
Yeah.
I immediately thought of all the rumors back in the day for the Phantom Menace when people thought that Gabriel Byrne, the actor, was
Yeah.
to play something like maybe like a Darth Plagueis type. And I don't know why those rumors actually started. I probably knew back then, but I probably just don't remember anymore because it was
Fair.
more than 25 years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, cool looking helmet. Like I said, I'm still kind of neutral. I don't think this trailer got me any more hyped or less hyped. The
Sure.
villain looks cool, but we
Yeah.
still don't know much. It's that tricky thing when trailers come out. You want to know stuff, but then again, you don't want to know stuff. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's that weird thing.
Yeah.
So
That's how I
Noah on
felt with.
YouTube says, "How's it going, boys? Happy Star Wars Day."
Hey, may the fourth be with you, Noah. Yeah, no, kind of like what you're saying, David, with trailers giving stuff away. That's kind of how I felt about the first Deadpool Wolverine trailer. Like, okay, we didn't get a whole lot. But then in the second one, I almost feel like we got too much. But that's just me personally.
Yeah, and like I said, we got this trailer today, and I'm just waiting for the day that we get a movie on Star Wars Day.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
I think that should really be the end game. But
Yeah.
but May 4th doesn't always fall on like a Thursday or a Friday, a Saturday, a
Right.
Sunday. So
It'll be
it's
a
kind
few
of
years
tricky
until
there.
that.
Yeah, this year,
Yeah.
2024, it actually fell on a Saturday, so everyone can actually do the marathon. Do you know anyone that did the marathon for?
No, I didn't. I think the closest spot to me was Chicago.
Okay. After a while, they actually added more dates, actually more theaters to show, because I was kind of complaining on the podcast that the only spot in Texas was North Dallas, and then they added a San Antonio location. But by
Oh,
that
nice.
time, I had allocated all my funds to my celebration tickets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, speaking of the celebration tickets, I put out a post. If you follow us on Facebook, if you're on the Facebook group, Colin, I think he had the most devices open. And I kind of explained this on the last podcast, but I used a card, an Apple card, that Apple credit card you can get. I rarely use it.
Sure.
So I had it there set aside, and I figured, okay, I'll use that. I have nothing on it, so I can just kind of allocate that towards just buying celebration tickets. So when I got in, it was between me, Colin, Craig, and Carl. I had 4 devices. Colin right there had 4 devices. Or maybe he had 5 devices open. But somehow, some way, my phone was the fastest one in, so I was in charge of buying the tickets. So I bought for 3 days, but then I got a notification from my card saying that there's detected fraud.
Man.
But it was me buying the tickets. So I was like, no, it's me. Let the transaction go through. So I didn't get the confirmation email. So I thought, okay, well, if I don't have any confirmation email, I don't have the ticket. So I went back and I bought more tickets. So I think it turns out now, once I got that confirmation email from buying that second set of tickets, I clicked on the link for show clicks. And in my order history, it shows a total of 16 tickets purchased. So I have enough tickets for 8 people now to go to all days of celebration. So
Money. There you go.
yeah, so that's my predicament right now, I think. I actually disputed the charge with Apple because I didn't think it went through, because
Yeah.
I found out after the fact. I called them and disputed it. So we'll kind of see what happens. And I have merch tied to those tickets too. But the different thing is, though, that you have to go to will call no matter what for this celebration. Nothing
Okay.
mailed out. So if I do the light ticket exchange thing, my question is, does my merch go with those tickets?
Oh, sure.
I don't know how that works.
Did you get merch
So
for the other tickets, or were you just trying to secure tickets? Okay.
yeah, because once you buy tickets, they ask you what you want to buy, and you can buy
Yeah.
like the T-shirts, the hats, patches, pins, magnets,
Bags.
that fan that they're selling with the key art.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
the tote bag. The tote bag is like $40 for some reason.
What?
It's kind of expensive, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, like I was saying earlier, I wasn't able to go to the Phantom Menace screening, but I was able to watch one of my all-time favorite movies that stars Harrison Ford to kick off my my Star Wars weekend in The Fugitive. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have not. I've seen clips and pieces. My parents were watching it when I was living with them a year or so ago, and I sat and watched like 20 minutes of it, but had somewhere else to be. But it's definitely one I'd love to get to someday.
It's a great movie, man. I've seen
Yeah.
that movie hundreds of times, maybe. Um, it was playing on BBC America,
Okay.
and I was like kind of channel surfing on YouTube TV, and I saw that I think on TBS or I think it was TBS.
Yeah.
They had a Star Wars marathon going, so that's really par for the course. They've done that just about every year.
Yeah.
But once I saw The Fugitive, I was like, okay, it's one of those movies where you click on it, you got to finish it because it's such a great movie. It's such
That's
a great
cool.
movie. But then afterwards, once it finished, I think it was around 2:20 a.m. for me. So I was like, I might as well watch Tales of the Empire. So I turned
Yeah.
that on and I looked at every single episode. Every single episode is around 15 minutes long. So not
Mhm.
that long. There's only 6. So I was like, well, I could probably get through all of it before I go to bed. So that's what I did. I watched them all. You watched them all this morning?
Yeah. Yep. I watched them all this morning.
Okay. So I think we all knew at the beginning that they were going to focus on Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee.
Yes.
So the Morgan Elsbeth stuff, I don't think we had too many questions on, but the Barriss Offee stuff, we had like a decade's worth of questions. What happened to her?
Yeah.
Where did her story go? How
Yeah.
does it play into the grander scheme of things? And I guess we're going to talk about it. So spoilers for Tales
Yeah.
of the Empire. If you haven't seen Tales of the Empire, don't watch this because we're about to talk about all the intricacies of
Yeah.
the 6 episodes. But yeah, starting with the very first episode that involved General Grievous. It
Yep.
involved the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
Their planet that we actually had seen before, I believe, in Clone Wars, where Palpatine actually ordered to have their race just massacred.
Yeah.
So we go back to that scene and we see the character that's in the trailer with the 2 sickles that's actually fending off lightsabers, which happens to be Morgan Elsbeth's mother.
Yeah.
And she goes toe-to-toe with General Grievous. And of course, watching it, whenever I watch stuff like this where we go back in time or we see like essentially like a prequel to what we've already seen,
Yeah.
I automatically just tell myself, okay, well, Grievous, we all know Grievous isn't going to perish. He's
Plot
gonna,
armor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
all know Morgan Elsbeth is going to stay alive as well.
Yeah.
Because
For sure.
she was younger and she
Yeah.
was
She was
actually
really young.
voiced by a different character.
Yeah.
And she actually had the markings on her face that a lot of people question why she didn't have the markings in The Mandalorian. But
Yeah.
kind of answer that question when you watch more of the episode there. So we see her mother defeated by General Grievous. It was a little bit of trickery with a third arm,
Yeah.
getting
He
her
likes to
right
do
in the
that.
gut.
He really. I was watching it with my wife, and I'm like, classic Grievous move. He just likes to do that.
Classic Grievous. And Grievous was voiced again by Matthew Wood. So
What a
he
legend.
reprised the voice.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Morgan Elsbeth wasn't voiced in this episode by Diana Lee Inosanto, who was the actress. But she does voice her in the episodes after, I believe, the first episode. But
Yeah.
she did voice a separate character in that episode, which was kind of interesting. They pretty much included her in all 3 episodes. But the naming convention of the 3 episodes for Morgan Elsbeth's story was, I believe it was fear, anger, and revenge, or was it hate?
The
Hate,
path of
okay.
fear, the path of anger, and the path of hate.
Okay, so yeah, we've all heard that before. So I thought that was probably the best naming for these episodes.
Yeah,
And
very clever.
and we see, I believe it's the second episode, we do see her with a group that's hiding in the mountains.
That's the
Basically,
first episode still.
that's the first episode. Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, she ends up in the mountains, and it's pretty much the inverse of the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
It's like the Light Sisters. And
Did
I
they say
believe,
people of the hill or something like that?
yeah, something like that. But they were actually referenced in a book, never shown on screen before, and we get to see them, um, and we see them talk about how they're not on the same, I don't think, on the same plane, the same path as Jedi, but
Hmm.
they are good. They believe in peace. So the
Yeah.
antithesis of the Night Sisters, um, and you do see a hunt take place, and Morgan Elsbeth takes one of the younger sisters out on a hunt. Um, and on that hunt, do you remember exactly what happens, Zach?
I think they go to look for weapons. Just like, hey, I think I know a
Right.
spot where we can find some weapons. And she takes, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the younger women who are there, and like the mother of their group, tribe,
Mhm.
I guess whatever you want to call her, stayed back and was kind of getting stuff ready. And then Morgan takes the 2 or 3 girls that were with her out to find these weapons. And then they find them, and then they get ambushed by droids while they're out there.
Right, right. And you do see the classic, which is it? I don't think it's Trade Federation per se, that circular ship that we see in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
remember what it's called. Because that's a droid itself that like was carrying the super battle droids that like
Right,
dispatched
right.
them. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. No, that name is escaping me, but I don't know if that's Trade Federation. I'm guessing. I don't know. It's tough to tell. Sometimes they get intermixed, but
Yeah. So, of course, what we all kind of expect is that some of those daughters of the Light Sisters do perish. And the mother does show up to kind of save the day right as Morgan Elsbeth is about to be taken out. And she uses a light side magic, you could
yeah,
say, to save the day, essentially. And she kind of lays out the fact that Morgan Elsbeth has chosen essentially the dark side, um, the dark way, the dark magic. And that's the path that she's on. And of course, this is before what we see in the Mandalorian season 2, where we
yeah,
end up on Corvus. So the episode after that, I believe she's proposing plans to the Empire for TIE Defenders.
yeah. That
So
was really cool.
yeah, that was really cool. And with TIE Defenders, those single man fighters, they are single man, correct?
Yes. Yep.
They're essentially TIE fighters, except the fact that they're 3-winged and not dual winged.
And have deflector shields. That was a huge part
Right, right. And
of
that is
that.
the big part, because if the Empire did decide to go with her plans, her designs, and fought the rebellion in episode 4, they may have won.
Yeah, because there's a small ship that got through to
Right,
drop the.
exactly.
Yeah.
So of
Yeah.
course they don't take the plans, and that Moff who was in the meeting, it's so funny because it feels like a meeting from work,
Yeah.
from like a
Zoom call.
standard, yeah, essentially. But yeah, like a big a boardroom table, and
Yeah.
and that Moff just basically tells Morgan Elsbeth, "We're not going to go with your plans. We're just going to go to your planet and take it all."
Yeah. Yeah. Expect our arrival so we could take what's
Yeah,
rightfully ours. I'm like,
yeah.
what the heck, man?
So what happens exactly after that? Do you remember?
So after that Moff walks out, Morgan's talking with, I believe, Captain Paleon, who we also see in Mandalorian season 3 when they talk about Thrawn's return and Project Necromancer and like that hollow conference call. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Now you got me thinking about conference calls. So she's talking with Paleon, and he's kind of like, okay, my superior sends me to these meetings to find select, I guess, talent, like specific people who have talent worthy enough to be noticed by my superior. And I guess immediately I didn't know that was Paleon just kind of looking at him, but I thought of Thrawn and then kind of put that, I guess, puzzle together backwards. And he's like, you should be hearing from us, or however. And then I believe it cuts back to her arriving on the planet that we see her on in The Mandalorian. I can't remember what that planet's called. I don't know if you remember, David.
It's Corvus, right?
Oh yeah, Corvus. Right.
Yeah.
You're totally right. So she's talking to the people of Corvus, and they're like, oh, come on. This wasn't like a home run with the Empire. We worked really hard to back you up on this. We trusted you. How could you do this to us? Blah, blah, blah. And she's kind of like, sorry, you got to keep trusting me. I don't know, a little more backhanded than that. But then she goes back to her little tower. She's like, how could they hate me? I'm trying to do what's best for them. And then I believe not long after that, she gets attacked by Rook, is his name. He was Thrawn's bounty hunter that he hired
Yes.
in Rebels. And I believe who plays Wicket the Ewok?
Warwick Davis.
Yeah, I believe he voices Rook.
Yes.
And he shows up and fights Morgan, and she has her Beskar spear that we see her with in The Mandalorian. And that was a really cool fight scene. I don't know what your thoughts were, but
Yeah.
that was cool.
It was really
That
cool.
was really, really cool. They were definitely going, blow for blow, and it seemed like a pretty even match. And Morgan ends up besting Rook, and Paleon shows back up and is kind of like, sorry, this is kind of a formality, but we wanted to see that you could hold your own. Okay, Rook, you're good to go. And he just kind of huffs and jumps over the ledge to go grab his weapon that she knocked out of his hands. And then Thrawn shows up and talks about, I guess, the potential that she has. And I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. It kind of came full circle for me, because when we first see Morgan there in The Mandalorian season 2, Ahsoka's just, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? And then you see how they meet, and I just kind of like how that kind of goes back to the origin of that. That was definitely cool to see.
Yeah, it was cool to see the origin of Morgan Elsbeth with Thrawn and their meeting,
Yeah.
and how they kind of bonded in a way.
Yeah.
And that's where that trust built. And you do see some of Thrawn's fleet in the sky there, and
Yeah.
that's just part of my fleet, and they're essentially gonna help fund the project.
Yeah.
And we do see TIE Defenders get made, and we see, I believe in Rebels, we see one of the factories for TIE Defenders get destroyed, correct?
Yeah, that was on Lothal,
Yeah.
where they had, I guess, a huge operation for that, because they attacked one of the bases, I guess you could say, where there was a model being tested, and I can't remember who from Phoenix Squadron was there. I think Ezra and Sabine went in and took it out. But yeah, it's crazy. You see a lot of big Imperial projects kind of getting axed here lately, and all the funding is going to Project Stardust. I wonder what that could be. It's kind of crazy. Things just aren't working out.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. And all these stories are by Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
I think directors, I think some of them had similar directors, but this was all by the hand of Filoni. It's all
Yep.
crafted by him. And you kind of wonder, thinking about when Filoni was with Favreau doing the live action stuff like The Mandalorian, where it all ties into.
Yeah.
How much foresight he had into figuring out all the stories and the plot points. I think the one aspect that is in question was that maybe they didn't quite know what Morgan Elsbeth's backstory was because she didn't have the Night Sister markings on her face. But
Yeah,
then they explained it in the animation here when she went into the mountains with the Light
because
Sisters there.
the
They
spell
they
was
faded
broken.
away. Right,
Yeah,
right.
that was cool to see. But then they come back in Ahsoka when she's with the mothers on Peridia.
Yeah, well, but are they the same?
I don't know if they're the same, but she gets the
I don't
markings
think
come
they're the
back on her
same.
face,
Right, right. I don't
or
think they're the
markings in
same.
general. But yeah,
Yeah.
tattoos aren't
They
permanent in Star Wars.
but I think in Jedi Survivor though, when Cal Kestis goes to that planet, you actually fight them in the game because they kind of like zombie resurrect. I think you
I think you
experience that
fight
in the
the
game.
Night Brothers, like
Okay,
Zabraks that look like Darth Maul.
okay. Because I thought in the game he
Maybe
fights
you
Night
do.
Sisters.
It's been a little bit since I've played. I think you fight like the zombieified versions of the Night
Right,
Sisters.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
okay, I'm trying to think back now. Was there another episode after that?
With Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah, so the
There was
third
another
episode,
it was the episode, like, way into the future with the
the
New
New
Republic.
Republic. Yeah,
Right. One of the
yeah,
villagers became like an ambassador for the New Republic, shows up with the New Republic um, guard, and the ship looked very, very um, Phantom Menace from that.
yeah.
It almost looked like a Naboo cruiser in a
Shiny,
way.
sleek.
Um, well, the design more so than the shiny and sleekness of it, but
Yeah,
in that species of that ambassador, I don't think we actually know what type of species that is.
yeah. I don't think we do either. I've seen online people have been talking about her species and just kind of can't find like encyclopedias that clarify. It could be out there now, but
Right.
I know people were doing some research this morning trying to figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the bigger mysteries here. So yeah, we essentially get right up to what we saw in live action in the Mandalorian season 2 for that
Yeah.
Jedi episode.
Hmm.
Um, all the way up into the point where, and I think we haven't even talked about the sheriff, the Asian actor. They put him in. I'm not sure if it's the same voice actor. It might be. I
That's
didn't.
a good
I don't
point.
know
I
his
didn't think
name.
about that either. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you do see the assassin droids there. You
Yep.
see the bridge over the water where we eventually see Ahsoka and Morgan duel.
Yeah.
And she's essentially wearing the same clothing that you see in live action
Yep.
for that episode in season 2 of The Mandalorian. So there was a distress beacon activated, and it's funny because it was Bo-Katan that was the voice
Yeah.
that came over, and it was Katie Sackhoff that did the voice.
Was that
So
credited in at the end of it?
yes, it was,
That's
and
pretty cool.
it's kind of funny because it's like she had like top billing in the credits, and she had like 2 or 3 lines, and she
Yeah.
didn't even like Bo-Katan didn't even appear, but it lays the groundwork for the fact that maybe she let Ahsoka Tano know that there's a distress call. She ends up
Yeah.
there due to Bo-Katan, and that's how
Yeah.
Bo-Katan told Din Djarin to
I
go to
was
that
gonna
planet
say,
and seek
yeah,
her out.
she knew where
So
Ahsoka was.
so yeah, it all ties together
It all
there.
comes together. Yeah. But I guess before we get to the distress call, because that's kind of like the last thing you see in the episode,
Right.
which I think is one of the bigger, I guess, Easter eggs at the end there. So this, I guess, ambassador for the New Republic comes in with New Republic guards, and you see Matt Lancer play one of them in live action in the first season of The Mandalorian in the Prison Break episode.
Yep.
And it was kind of cool to see that again, because in my head I'm like, oh, that's Rebellion. I'm like, wait a second, they look different. That's New Republic era, and kind of
Right.
put that all together. And she kind of goes up to Morgan. Well, not Morgan. The Asian gentleman you were talking about. Can't remember the character's name. Hey, we're trying to recruit people who might volunteer. to be part of our cause.
Right.
And because she was from that planet, and she was in the previous episode, just amongst the townspeople,
Right.
and things go sideways pretty quick. pretty quick.
And also like the fact that when that former, I don't know, the new ambassador, when she was dying in the
Yeah,
arms of the future sheriff there, she told him that no matter what, any bit of good will help. And
yeah,
when you watch The Mandalorian, you see that he doesn't give up, that he becomes imprisoned, but he continues to still fight. And I believe, I'm not sure what part, I can't even remember now what part he had to play in the very, very end, but I know he did something that was small but significant in live
he
action.
was. Oh, in live action, I thought you were talking about the
I think
episode
he
here.
helped. Yeah, he helped. I said he helped Din Djarin, and I believe he helped in the rescue or the or actually freeing some of the imprisoned villagers there. So yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. You see them burn all the trees as well, and like when you come to seeing Ahsoka in the woods
right,
in the beginning of the episode, it's because if memory serves me right, for the Jedi episode in Mando season 2, you just jump right into it, and the first thing you see is Ahsoka running around in the woods, and the trees are. I mean, you could either think it's winter or they're all like charred, and all the leaves are gone, and I think they kind of explained that a little bit and why it looked the way it did, which was cool. Subtle details, but definitely made the end seem a lot more impactful when the ambassador dies, and then the communicator or the transmitter, the beacon,
hmm
whatever that little communication device is, rolls out, and you hear Bo-Katan, and then it gets stabbed by the spear. That was pretty. I don't know. It was just pretty cool how that all went together. It looked really good.
yeah. You would think that Filoni had that whole story point in his head when he was
Yeah. Oh
doing
yeah.
the Jedi,
Yeah.
and didn't have to think back and retro create that backstory for it. I don't know. We might not ever know unless somebody asks him the question. Hopefully in an interview or maybe at Celebration in Japan. Who knows? But yeah, I really liked how it tied together. That's one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian. When we meet Ahsoka Tano, she's not there. We don't see her, but all the groundwork is there.
Yeah.
The big.
Setting that up.
So was that like? So that's a big gong at the top, right?
Yes, because she,
okay.
I think, cuts that down with her lightsabers in the
Right in live action.
Mandalorian.
But
Yeah.
you do see it get nicked a couple times.
Yeah. Yes. It's like a
with the
bell,
staff.
like
Yeah.
to alert for an intruder or something like that.
Right. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
and that's pretty much the end of the Elsbeth episodes, right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you see her go from more the innocent route to, I guess you could say, victim, bystander, to like she has all the opportunity to build back strong and do good, but she chooses the evil route. And I
Right.
guess we'll talk about Barriss here in a minute, but you kind of see the opposite with Barriss, which is kind of cool. But yeah, absolutely.
So how do you rank these this Morgan Elsbeth arc? Do you think it's what you thought you were gonna get, or do you think it's something more, or do you think they should have done more?
I was thinking about this when I was getting ready to run an errand with my wife. I was kind of like, man, I wanted some more action. But if you think back to like Tales of the Jedi, like these are meant to be stories that I guess add a lot of detail and background information, and it doesn't necessarily have to be action packed. Like if you think to the first episode of Tales of the Jedi, Ahsoka's a baby and she gets, I guess kidnapped by like a big tiger, and it's kind of a rite of passage type hunt for her culture, something like that. And it's kind of slow, but the story's meaningful. And I think that's the same with first 3 episodes, because I mean, it starts off with the massacre on Dathomir, which we've seen before, but this is just a different glimpse of it. So I kind of, in my head, I think I expected a little bit more, just because they took a lot of the really crazy action sequences from this show and put it in that trailer. And I think they made the trailer very well to get us sucked in. Granted, anything Lucas Animation touches, I'll watch it, but it was definitely, I enjoyed it. Instantly after the fact, I was kind of like, oh, I wish it was a little bit more action. But the more I've sat on it for a few hours now, and I definitely thought it was great. The storytelling was awesome, and there's a lot more bedrock that was laying down for story than I realized. I guess the story's already there that we knew about, like the Jedi episode in The Mandalorian, because we know what happened with that, but you get to see how that story was built up from the Tales of the Empire. So sorry, that's my long-winded answer, but what did you think?
I think it was par for the course. I think what we got is what I kind of expected. I do really like the storytelling, and they're filling in the gaps
Yeah,
and giving us backs. Because otherwise, I mean, how would you tell Morgan Elsbeth's story? I mean, you really wouldn't tell it in a movie. You
right.
probably wouldn't tell it in a TV show. I mean, she's not like a top build character, but her
Yeah,
story is interesting. And
yeah,
I think whenever there's opportunity to tell these stories and kind of fill in the gaps, which Star Wars has always done that. They've always told a story off into the future, and stuff has obviously happened off screen, and there's a lot more opportunity to tell and fill in the gaps.
yeah. I agree.
Which is usually done through the novels and comic books, but I do think that animation really serves it well. And
Yeah,
I think that's a great spot for animation. I still do like the full blown series like Bad Batch and Rebels, but I think this is a very clever way to give us what we don't know, and
yeah,
especially with something like Barriss Offee, so many people had so many questions about
yeah.
what happened with her, and
Oh, yeah,
specifically fans of animation just wanted to know. We saw her originally in Attack of the Clones, and she was standing, I think, in the very beginning of Attack of the Clones next to her master, Luminara, and I think right behind Yoda too.
oh, when
And
they're meeting with Palpatine.
yes,
Yeah,
and Yoda gives that kind of look of suspicion, CGI
yep,
Yoda.
yeah.
And that was in the trailer for Attack of the Clones. But in Clone Wars, we see, you could probably better explain this, but Barriss Offee essentially frames Ahsoka Tano into making them think that she bombed an
Yeah.
area.
Well, I guess it kind of goes back a little bit further, because the second battle of Geonosis, Ahsoka and Barriss are kind of on a secret mission together, because they're trying to go and blow up this other factory from the inside, and they form a bond, all that crazy stuff. Then after all that happens, the shuttle that they're on to head back to Coruscant, I believe, gets infested with these like brain invaders, these worms that like crawl up your nose, and they have to fight off all these clones, and they almost die. They build this good friendship, and then eventually, yes, Anakin and Ahsoka are out on a mission. I believe the planet's Cato Nemoidia, actually, and then they get called back to the temple because there was a bombing, and then Ahsoka gets framed for the bombing by Barriss, and that ultimately leads to Barriss, or I guess, well, Barriss gets thrown in jail because Anakin's like, he just kicks her butt, and she kind of pleads her case after everything gets put together, and then Ahsoka ends up leaving after her distrust in the Jedi. So it was kind of crazy to see that, but yeah.
And when you think about it, that event is responsible for keeping Barriss alive and Ahsoka alive.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, when all the dominoes fell there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been 10 years. We see the same shot that we see in Revenge of the Sith of the Jedi Temple burning from a distance. First time we saw it was from Senator, or actually,
Because it was Padme.
what is her
right?
title? Is she just Padme Amidala? in
She
Revenge
was
of
a
the Sith?
senator.
Okay.
She was a senator. Yeah.
Still technically a senator because she makes that statement. This is how liberty dies.
Yeah.
Um,
Thunderous applause.
yep. So we see that from Barriss Offee's cell,
Yeah.
and it's very kind of cool because it's lit from the bottom in red, and the door is red,
Yeah.
and she has no idea what's going on, and you see the shock troopers that are guarding her cell, and they tell her, "Consider yourself lucky that you're not a Jedi anymore," and
Dude.
she has
Yeah.
no idea what's going on, and of
Yeah,
course,
because they're like, tomorrow the Jedi won't be around. And that kind of blew my mind because I mean Rex and Ahsoka try to like pull that stunt when they're on the Venator in season 7. You know, he walks out, she's
Mhm.
got her hands on her head, like, hold your fire. She hasn't been a Jedi for some time. And they're like, yeah, that's not good enough for us. And they start blasting. So I thought it was interesting how those shock troopers were like, you're lucky you're not a Jedi anymore. You'd be lying on the floor right now. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So what's the next thing that happens after that scene, Zach?
Well, I guess I want to point out quick. I don't know if you could visualize, like, she's got the like almost like a swim cap over her head, like the white swim cap and the orange jumpsuit. That is
Right.
very reminiscent to what we see Luminara wearing
Right.
in Rebels when the Grand Inquisitor tries to lure Kanan and Ezra into thinking she's alive. That's what they have her wearing, which I thought was very ironic. But after she sees the Jedi Temple being attacked, and she wakes up the next morning, and the fourth sister walks in. What did she call her? It started with an L. Her real
Lynn.
name, Lynn. So
Yeah.
she walks in and she's like, Lynn, what's going on? She's like, I don't go by that anymore. And I'm going to give you a rare opportunity to, I guess, hop on this train, and it's moving quick. So it's kind of a now or never type deal.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets pressured into it because the shock troopers, I guess take their blasters off of the stun setting, and they like start to point them at her. And
Right. Yeah. You hear the classic sound.
yeah, and she kind of just is like, all right, I guess I really don't have a choice. And then the fourth sister does the old handcuff wave with, like, Emperor Palpatine to Luke on the second Death Star, and they just fall to the ground. And then I think it cuts to the title, which I believe it was Devoted,
Mm-hmm.
episode 4. And then you see Barriss flying with the fourth sister to the Fortress Inquisitorius. That's always a mouthful. I always feel like I'm saying that wrong. I don't know about you, but that always
For some reason, I like to say that the Fortress Inquisitorius. I don't know, but
it rolls off the tongue well.
Yeah. The first time we saw the fourth sister was in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, right?
Yes,
Okay.
which is 10 years ballpark after the events of this episode. So we get to see, this is the first time chronologically we see her, and she brings Barriss into a room.
So did you think that
the
we were
Grand
going to see
Inquisitor.
some of those Jedi that were stuck in amber? I thought we were going to maybe see like a Terrace Nube type
Ooh.
thing,
Ooh,
but we didn't.
I didn't even think about that. That would have been kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the Fortress
carted off.
Inquisitorius does mirror kind of like the rebuild of the Death Star 2 in Return of the Jedi, because it's not all the way like the
Yeah.
pyramid structure.
Yeah,
So,
it's not finished.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. And dude, I don't know about you, but I loved the look of the Grand Inquisitor in this animation.
That's what I wanted to
style.
talk about too. They kind of
Oh.
went with the rebel look more so than maybe taking the Obi-Wan Kenobi look
Yeah,
and repurposing that into Tales of the Empire. But we did get Jason Isaacs back voicing, so it's kind of like, well, no, they just went back to the Rebels design, and I kind of feel
Yeah.
like Filoni didn't like the Obi-Wan Kenobi design and liked the more traditional
Yeah.
elongated head design, because I don't at that point
Yeah.
in time he wasn't as high up in the Lucasfilm ladder as he was. He probably would have had more say about it, but They
Mm.
kind of went back to it. Jason Isaacs reprised his role as the Grand Inquisitor. Did a great job.
Yeah.
And and every time I hear his voice, man, I think about Harry Potter. And then there was that one scene where that door opened and they went down this like spiral like staircase down, and I was like,
Mhm.
that's such like a Hogwarts scene right there.
You're right. No, you're totally right, man. Totally right. But yeah, after she is greeted by the Grand Inquisitor, I guess Barris is kind of talking about the Republic, and he just pretty much spews the line. It's been reconfigured into the First Galactic Empire, and I guess what we've heard before. But oh yeah, the Grand Inquisitor looked whack, and Kenobi.
I
Yeah,
liked Rupert Friend. I liked his portrayal, but yeah, I think the look they kind of
Yeah.
like fumbled it there.
I'm in the
Um,
same boat.
It,
I
it,
agree
it was okay,
with
but it
that.
could have been better,
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And after, I guess you could consider this the attempt at righting the wrongs in the past with that. Maybe
Mhm.
Lucasfilm will see how much everyone loves this design. But we see that Barris is with two other, it seems to be Padawans,
Mhm.
Jedi,
Yeah, young Jedi.
I guess who young Jedi who survive, or maybe they were in prison for something. I don't have a reason to believe why they were in prison, but
Right.
maybe these guys just got snatched from where they were. Like,
Well, one of
oh,
them
we
does
might
say,
be
"Weren't
good.
you in prison?"
Yeah, yeah. Well, does she say that to Barris, or he say that to Barris, not Barris to either of the other two, right? Because we kind of
Right.
don't know where they came from. But somehow they all must have known each other from either training in the past or something like that. And I don't know if you noticed this, David, but the clone troopers that were guarding their cells or their cell had like the green visor that you see at the beginning of the Bad Batch, where it's like the first group of recruits or volunteers to replace the clones.
Nice. I did notice that.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the same clone armor, and it could be a clone under there, but that is the first time we see clone armor not being worn by an actual clone in. Um, well, okay, I guess Cad Bane disguises himself as a clone, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
where there's actual people who are recruited to be troopers that wear clone armor who are not clones. And maybe, I don't know, it's not confirmed that that's the same, but it's the same. It's definitely the same, like darker armor, because that's very reminiscent of the kind of clones that go with Crosshair to Saw Gerrera's camp to try to infiltrate. So,
Right.
and then we see the Grand Inquisitor splits Barris off with one of the other Jedi. Well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself here. There were two young men that were Jedi that came with her. One of them was like, screw this, I'm out. And he ultimately gets killed.
Mhm.
And we don't see that. That happens off screen, but the Grand Inquisitor plays it off like, oh, it was such a terrible accident, and tosses a crystal on the ground. Did you take that as a kyber crystal?
Yes, I took that as a kyber crystal,
Okay.
and
I did too.
think
I wasn't sure, but
Barris and the other young Jedi there just figured that they killed him.
yeah.
Straight up, he made the wrong decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barris goes with the Grand Inquisitor, and the other Jedi goes with the fourth sister. And I'm guessing they went through the same sort of exercise
Right.
where there's a table of lightsabers, and the Grand Inquisitor's like, all right, take one, get mad, try to hurt me.
Yeah.
And she swings a few times, misses, gets clocked in the face, misses a couple more times, and then like hits his shoulder plate. It's like, oh, okay, we could work with that. And then he like forces her up into the ceiling. She lands, you see her blood drip on the ground.
Mhm.
Then she force pushes him into the wall, and he kind of smirks, and it's like, okay, I like what I see here. And then not too long after that, you see her walking into, I guess you could say, like a competition ground. I don't know what you'd call it, because it reminded me of Ahsoka's training in Tales of the Jedi when Anakin and Obi-Wan walk in. Well, I guess Anakin comes in late, and Terra Sanube is standing there,
Mhm.
and he just taps his cane on the ground, and this like cylinder type force field beam comes down and encloses on her, but it's blue. It sounded exactly the same. I watched those
Okay.
episodes like the other day. It sounded exactly like that, but it was red, and it was burning up the floor. And
Yeah.
um,
So
we
it's just
see,
probably repurposed, huh?
yeah, Yeah. We see Barris get tossed in there with the other Jedi, and I love how there was just one lightsaber. The Grand Inquisitor just tosses in one lightsaber.
Yeah.
We only got one spot on the football team, so you guys got to fight to the death to be our all-star running back.
Very, very Heath Ledger Joker.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that sequence was really creative. And at first, you see Barris is kind of like, okay, we don't have to do this. We could get by.
Yeah.
And the other Jedi's like, dude, get with the times. I'm gonna take you out. He's like, I don't care. This
And,
is
and that's another situation of like, okay, yeah, we know Barris is going to survive. So, yeah, let's see how she wins.
yeah, yep, absolutely. But we see in her that there's still that bit of traditional Jedi senses to her. You know what I mean? She's kind of like, okay, violence doesn't have to be the answer. We could figure this out. And then ultimately, to save herself, she force chokes the kid, snaps his neck allegedly, and tosses him down the pit with the lightsaber. And then she gets her super cool Letterman jacket in the form of a helmet. And they welcome her to the super secret boy band.
And her voice changes. I like the sound of the voice. That was kind of cool.
The sound of her voice was really cool. It definitely almost made her feel like a different character, which I think is kind of the intent behind that. And
right.
This is probably one of my favorite shots of the whole Tales of the Empire. You see, I believe the first brother who gets killed by Ahsoka in Tales of the Jedi. You see Marak, who gets killed by Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. Then you see Barris and you see the fourth sister all standing before the Grand Inquisitor, and they're like, bow to your new master. Vader walks in. I'm like, dude, that's just so cool, because Barris has no idea. And I wonder if Vader sits down at the throne he's in and he's like, I wonder if he thought anything of the fact that was Barris.
Right.
I really wonder, because Anakin was the reason Barris was in jail to begin with, and now she's serving him.
You would figure that Barris would be able to sense Anakin, right?
Well, I mean, possibly, because you might be able to sense it's like a dark side presence, but not all Jedi who were by Vader sensed it was Anakin. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting there, but yeah. And then she puts on the helmet and says, "Long live the Empire," and that's where that episode ends.
And with Vader, you never hear him speak.
No,
doesn't say a word. You hear the iconic breathing, but you don't hear any words. I was expecting James Earl Jones, re-speecher technology there to say something, but we got nothing. And I don't think they really technically needed anything, but I was just kind of like waiting for him to speak, and nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Less is more with Vader sometimes, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then cutting to the next episode called Realization. Man, how far into the future do you think this episode is from the previous? Time has definitely gone by. I don't know how much time. You could tell there's a significant amount of time between this episode 5 and episode 6, but I really couldn't tell how much time went by between episodes 4 and 5.
Yeah, I don't think you can really pinpoint from just watching. We would have to find out, like via a timeline thing or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So the fourth sister and Barris are on a mission. And Barris is like, "Do you think this is really worth it?" They're flying around in a Scythe, which is the ship that they have in the Kenobi series. And the fourth sister is like, "Yeah, we got intel from the Grand Inquisitor. He would not send us here if there was not something to if there wasn't a lead, he wouldn't send us here." And it very much reminded me of the Obi-Wan series, when the Grand Inquisitor, the fourth sister, and the fifth brother pull up, and they're just walking around the downtown in Tatooine trying to find a Jedi, just kind of slowly interrogating people. And, "Come on, just tell me the truth. It'll be easier if people tell me the truth. We knew there's a Jedi here. Where's the Jedi at?" And that's pretty much, I guess, the gist of what goes on to start. And Barris sees this kid who's awfully frightened, and she takes her helmet off to make the kid less frightened and to feel more comfortable to tell the truth. And then eventually we find out that the Jedi that they're there to hunt is hiding in the mountains nearby.
Yeah.
And the fourth sister doesn't hear that directly from the kid, I believe, and then she kills the adults for lying to her, or I guess not telling the full story.
And that was brutal, man, for animation. Just
Yeah.
hitting people.
Yeah, and then you cut to like the back shot of a wall and you see a lightsaber blade stab through it.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to be on the business end of that. But yeah, that was pretty brutal. And Barris like turns the kid around and kind of shadows him away from all that. And then he's like, stay here, don't look back. And because the fourth sister like splits open some crates to walk through, and then she like closes them back together,
Right.
and they leave the kid there, and then they start climbing. And then they find the Jedi that's up there pretty quick, actually, because there's some rocks that get tossed down, and Barris
Right,
gets
right.
thrown down, and you know is hanging on by her hand. And the second she got tossed down and grabbed the rock, I'm like, there's no way you wouldn't like tear your shoulder open or something like that. But again, you can't really throw logic like that in there. But
She used the Force, Zach. She used the
you know
Force.
that's fair. That is totally fair. And you hear the fourth sister fighting the Jedi on top
Right.
of the mountain before Barris even gets up there. Like they're just in it. And I thought the lighting was awesome for that fight. It was a lot of just red blue humming around, and you see kind of silhouettes of the figures. And I don't know. I really like that. What were your thoughts on that, David?
I thought it was cool. I didn't know who they were going to encounter. I
Yeah.
think it was a brand new Jedi that we got.
Yep,
Um,
I agree.
We do see. I'm trying to think back to the fight. Once he gets essentially bested by the two of them, I thought maybe that Jedi died, but apparently Barris sensed it.
Yeah.
And this was interesting too. I think this might be the very first time that we hear anyone refer to an individual as they them.
Oh,
Did
sure.
you get that?
I did get that because
I
I was
was like,
asking my
wow.
wife. I'm like, I couldn't tell at first. I'm like, is that a guy or a girl? Just because it was dim lit, longer
Yeah.
hair, you really couldn't tell. But yeah, that was. I also kind of picked up on that and wasn't sure what to make of it.
Yeah.
in the moment. And if I'm being honest, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Which I think is accurate because I mean, if you can't tell, I mean, I guess that's the appropriate way to address. But
sure,
yeah, Barris at that moment, I mean, she, like you referenced, she has light side sensibility still, and even at that whole interrogation, I think she was kind of mortified at the whole just slicing up all of those people. And she was trying to convince Lynn, as she kept on calling the fourth sister, that this wasn't right. And I guess she ends up falling down the mountain, and
Barris pushes her.
Right. A
Yeah.
forced push to get Barris off that mountain, and goes back to that fallen Jedi. And I'm trying to remember exactly what happens after that.
I think she says to the Jedi, I'm not going to let you die.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And I think that's kind of where it ends. Just kind of cuts to credits there. And
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what actually happened with that Jedi, because in Obi-Wan, you see the path. Like Quinlan Vos came through, and like it was like I guess you could say like an underground railroad for Jedi. But
And
obviously,
I thought
Barris,
we were gonna get a Quinlan Vos cameo at some point, but no.
Sure. And I thought if Barris would have known about that, the Inquisitors would have known about that, so then it wouldn't happen in Obi-Wan. So I guess it didn't make too much sense. But
Right.
that's just pretty much where the episode ends. Is the fourth sister fell off the mountain because Barris pushed her because she's and
We lost your audio for a second there. What'd you say?
Sorry. The fourth sister was talking to Barris before she got pushed off, and Barris was like, you have one more Jedi you have to kill, and just pushes her off. And you see her kind of just accept that a little bit more. She goes back to the Jedi and I'm not going to let you die. And then it cuts to the next one.
Yeah, and the next one is way in the future. It seems like you could
Yeah.
tell, like you could
In her
sense the
face.
aging. Yeah,
Yeah.
that she's older. Um, and I believe one of the characters refers to her as a mother.
Yeah, like the wise mother,
Like an
the
elder.
healer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple with an
A
infant
baby. Yeah.
who was found out to be essentially force sensitive.
And they
That's
thought he
why.
was sick,
Yeah, they
which is
thought he
kind
was
of
sick, but the
crazy.
Empire flagged that kid, and um, the couple asked, "Is our kid a Jedi?" And she's like, "Not, no,
Yeah.
but there's potential there." And of course, continuing with the storyline, so many years later, the fourth sister shows up, Lynn, and she sends the couple, the kid, and her two. Um, I don't know what you want to call them.
Like a guard outside her tent, and then like the
Yeah,
scout who was out in the
yeah,
snow.
she sends them to her ship, which is in essentially like a cave, and we've seen that before in Star Wars many times.
Yeah.
And she sends them through, and she tells the fourth sister that if she goes in there, she won't be able to get out. And the whole intercut between Barriss or the fourth sister going into the cave, hunting, looking for the infant, because that infant's been identified.
Yeah.
They manage to sneak around, and it's almost like a test for the fourth sister in a way. And
Yeah.
she turns around in her rage and frustration and stabs Barriss in the
Yeah.
stomach.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna kill Barriss now.
Or is it another stomach stabbing survival story?
I don't want to go there, but
Right.
yeah, so that's what happened, and they have the whole conversation of Barriss telling her that there is a way out of the Empire, of the dark side,
Yeah.
and she picks her up and takes her out, and essentially the episode and season 1 of Tales of the Empire ends right there.
Yeah.
And it's
That
like
was so wide open.
yeah, and it's like we didn't get like full closure on it, and I was like, is there like another scene after this?
Yeah.
And I went through the credits and I didn't see anything, and I was like, okay, I guess that's how it ends. I guess
Yeah.
we still have an open-ended Barriss Offee story.
Yeah. Well, and you wonder if that, I guess, if the fourth sister remains an Inquisitor. You know what I mean? Because if not, then that
So
definitely took place after Obi-Wan, because she was very much an Inquisitor,
right.
right, in that show. But
But you never see her after that. So
yep.
I think there's a little bit of an assumption that maybe she did leave the Inquisitorius, and
Yeah.
maybe that turned her, because you could tell when she was holding Barriss that she cared for her.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of vague that maybe she was actually related to Barriss. I know that she called her sister, but I mean, that's just kind of
That's
like
just how they roll.
terminology. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily actual
Blood.
through marriage or blood sister. So yeah, that's a little open too. So not everything was given in a finite answer.
I
which
wonder
is-
if we'll get more details on their time as Inquisitors in the Inquisitor comic that's coming out this summer.
Yes, and we're gonna have an interview with one of the people who participated in creating that comic Monday.
Fantastic.
I know Ray's got that interview. I'm going to try and join him. I'm not sure if I am, but yeah, we're gonna get
Awesome.
that done on Monday.
Very cool.
So yeah, so overall, what do you rate the Tales of the Empire? Did you like it more than Tales of the Jedi?
I definitely like Tales of the Jedi more, because I think
Okay.
Dooku's storyline was like incredible, and it filled in so much that we didn't know about. Count Dooku kind of explained a little bit of the Sifo Dyas plot, the Camino stuff getting erased from the archives, Yaddle dying, how he joins Palpatine, all that stuff. Like that one episode alone in Tales of the Jedi is like, that's really good Star Wars in my head. Well, it all is. Don't get me wrong. But I would rate Tales of the Jedi above Tales of the Empire. But I really did enjoy Tales of the Empire. How about you?
I think I like Tales of the Jedi more, but I did really dig Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
'Cause I like the whole gap filling thing.
Yep,
We
me
got
too.
the story filling, and we got more resolution of Barris's story.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she was gonna turn back, although she did turn all the way, I guess. That's kind of debatable, but in the
Yeah.
end, she went back to the light and was helping people.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
I forgot to mention this detail. When she was, I guess, pointing the family to her starship,
Mhm.
get there, I'll give you coordinates, and my friend will help you. Who do you think she was
Yes,
talking about?
that's what I was wondering too. I was like, well, who is she sending him to?
The only person I could think of is, I guess, Ahsoka, right? I mean,
Right.
I don't know if they made amends or, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah. And the other question is maybe the infant became someone we know.
Hmm.
That's a
Very
possibility.
possible. Yeah.
So on the surface there, immediately I thought maybe that's Finn. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the timelines work out, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what jumped to my mind initially. I was like,
Sure.
wow, are they really going to tie in possibly like a Finn storyline? But
Hmm. Yeah.
and of
No.
course, we didn't know Finn's name because he got named after his FN number.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and I know Tales of the Jedi season 2 got announced, but that was before we knew about Tales of the Empire. So is
yeah,
Tales of the Empire supposed to be Tales of the Jedi season 2? They're technically two different shows.
right. It feels like it took the place of Tales of the Jedi, but
Yeah.
the naming convention is always weird because it always says season 1. So if it's
Right.
season 1, there should be a season 2, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
shall see. But I think that there's going to be a lot of goodwill towards the series,
Yeah.
and people are going to request more of it, and I think we'll see more of it in the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you don't have to wait
Absolutely.
till next May 4th to get the next set of episodes. But
Yeah.
and
Hopefully
then
we
somebody
get
made that big
Skeleton Crew
graphic.
beforehand.
Yeah, somebody made that big graphic of Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of
Yeah.
Max Rebo, Tales of
Yeah.
Dexter Jetster. I mean, you could pretty much go
Yeah.
on forever.
Yeah. It'd be crazy if we got like I don't know. I mean, the Clone Wars was based around the clones, but if you got like a Tales of the Clones, it'd probably be named something more creative where you learn a little bit more about what's going on with Echo. Because Echo's the only one I think is the only one I think you almost need to follow up with after the Bad Batch. I'm content not hearing,
Yeah.
what happens with the survivors of the actual Bad Batch crew. I guess maybe besides Omega, but I definitely think because Echo was so involved with Rex, it's worth seeing what goes on from there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll happen someday.
Cool. Well, there you go, guys. That was our spoiler breakdown of Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
And I think every Star Wars fan needs to watch it at least once through and kind of get that gist of who Morgan Elsbeth is. And of course, if you saw Ahsoka, spoilers for Ahsoka, she was killed there. But was she, though? She could be resurrected. I mean, technically, I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then a little bit of fleshing out of the Barasafi story, or maybe the entire thing. I mean, we don't know if she died there at the end. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the way they left it, maybe that's trying to tell us that she's that was her final chapter. But yeah, we shall see. But we haven't talked about what you did yesterday, Zach. Do you want to
Oh,
fill in
yeah.
everyone?
No, I'd love to. You want to pull up the picture for me, David?
Yeah.
So, for those of us watching, this is a picture of the Grand Rapids Symphony in Michigan. Grand Rapids, Michigan. They had a Star Wars, I guess you could say, program. The first show was last night at 7 p.m. Eastern, which was the time my wife and I went to. And then they're doing 2 shows today. And it was pretty much a John Williams greatest hits from the Star Wars universe. And they did a couple songs from Solo and Rogue One. And we got some story behind that as well. And they played it in chronological order. So they started with Duel of the Fates. And if you could see in the picture back there, they have the choir. Dude, I was blown away when they started Duel of the Fates, because you know how that starts. Like that's not super subtle to start off, and like people are still kind of sitting down and just bang, and like, oh man, and it sounded exactly like it does in the movies. It's such a talented orchestra, and they played I believe one from the Phantom Menace, one from Attack of the Clones, and one from Revenge of the Sith. They had Duel of the Fates, and then Across the Stars from Attack of the Clones, which if you listen to it and listen to the harp played like at the very end of it, that sounded so good in person. And Battle of the Heroes was incredible. And they just, I don't know, they kept going on and on and on and played. They ended it actually after you think it's done, but the conductor came back out for an encore and played the end scene for A New Hope when Luke and Han are walking down on Yavin 4 to get their medals. That's how they ended it, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. They didn't have any visuals for like movies or anything playing on the screen, which I thought was fine. I didn't need that. I don't know if anyone else would, but I don't think you need that. And
yeah, because you've seen it so many times, you see it in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounded so good. And the conductor between every piece would say, "Hey, John Williams released this book here," and he held it up, and it was like a lot of the music that he had composed for Star Wars, just because he wanted other people to see it as it was. And I think it came out a couple of years ago, 35 years ago, I think was when the first bit came out, and then he added the prequels and more to it on top of that. Obviously, he did the originals the sequels and the prequels, and he told the story. The conductor told the story about how John Williams approached Kathleen Kennedy to write a theme for Obi-Wan because he's like, I think I've wrote a theme for every major Star Wars character except for Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Now's my time to do it. So he kind of forced his way in there, and at the ripe age of 90, he wrote a theme for Obi-Wan, and it sounded incredible. And you could just tell it's him. You really can. And it was a huge tribute to John Williams and the legacy he's had on, I guess, with Star Wars, and his career overall is insane. He's just a genius. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. I would go again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. John Williams really is the modern day Mozart.
Yeah.
And you can also say that George Lucas is pretty much the modern day Shakespeare. Which is, it sounds crazy to say on the surface, but when you really think about it, I mean, what other franchise has stood the test of time and continued and has a day and has its own convention that happens? I mean, when you think back in 1970, at the 1978 Oscars, when Star Wars was up for Best Picture, it didn't win Best Picture. Annie Hall did. And it's like, you don't have Annie Hall celebration. You have Star Wars celebration.
I mean,
Star Wars should have won that Academy Award. George Lucas won Best Director. Because I mean, just look at the legacy. Look at the fandom. I mean, this is not gonna go away anytime soon. So I mean, it's endured. Many different storytellers now have taken their place. Filoni, the apprentice, is pretty much now the master. So it's an incredible thing, and I've been very lucky to see John Williams twice in person perform Star Wars music.
Wow!
And the first time was such a shock. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to cross this off my bucket list now, but it happened. And it was wild, because I'm talking about, it was the year 2017 in Orlando at Celebration. George Lucas, Kathleen Kennedy, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill were all on the stage together. And then John Williams appears with an orchestra. I'm not sure anything's going to top that. Maybe for the 50th anniversary celebration,
Mm.
wherever that's going to be held at in the year 2027.
Yeah.
Maybe they do something similar. It's yet to be seen, but
Yeah, it was incredible.
that music live, man, it's powerful.
It
And
is.
and when you told us
Oh,
that you had goosebumps, you probably set your own personal record for the most goosebumps, the longest
yeah,
goosebumps. It's powerful, man.
it
It's
is.
very
And
powerful.
because I like in my head, I was like kind of humming along with it. Like I knew what, you know what I mean? I knew how the song went. And
Yeah.
Across the Stars from Attack of the Clones, like I guess I told my wife this. I'm like, it took everything in me to hold back tears because it sounded so good. And there were, I guess, notes that John Williams had written down as he was composing this music, and the conductor read the notes before the songs, and the description he read about John Williams had never created a love theme before, and I guess kind of wrote down his thoughts on what it was and what George wanted it to be and how it all fleshed together, and then they played it. And I thought it was good. It was all so good, and the Rogue One sequences were great. Yeah, it was awesome, man. And right after the intermission, he's like, "All right, guys, we're gonna go right back to where it started with that B flat," and he turns around and bah, and you just hear it starting with the main title theme from
Wow.
A New Hope, and
Yeah.
it was cool. It was a very cool experience. Highly recommend doing something like that, you guys, if it's in your local area. If not this year, next year, whenever it happens, it's worth it.
Yeah,
It was very
it's
much worth it.
really the closest thing to magic, real magic, as I think you can
Yeah.
get. And music plays such a critical role in the success of a film. And to have that iconic music with the iconic story, I mean,
Mhm.
that's like it's peak cinema, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so great. It's so great, man. It has to be the best movie music. It's so recognizable,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
anytime you hear it. And one of the friends of the show, Kevin Reitzel, he's in Australia right now. He was shopping at a grocery store in Australia, and Australia's kind of a day ahead of us. And for May 4th, they were playing Star Wars music on the
Oh, so
intercom
cool.
while he was shopping for groceries.
That's super cool.
So yeah, May the 4th is getting more and more widely accepted everywhere, and
Yeah.
you see minor league baseball teams and minor league
Yeah.
sports embrace Star Wars night more and more, and they have special jerseys and uniforms.
Yeah. Dude Perfect dropped a big Star Wars video today. I've been watching them since middle school, so I'm super biased, but like they're all in it. Like there's just all this Star Wars stuff coming out today.
Oh wow, yeah, they're based in North Texas, right?
Yeah. Isn't Rebel Scum Con? Is that where Ray is?
No, Ray is actually in San Antonio at Wonderland of the
Okay.
Americas.
Okay.
He is actually here right now.
Oh, awesome.
And he just sent us a video. He is with Simon Williamson right now, and I think he just told us that we're going to be able to get him on a future podcast.
That's super
So
cool.
yeah, we'll get to talk to the Max Rebo, the puppeteer. So yeah. That should be interesting. Hopefully, Colin can be on that podcast because we all know Colin's love for Max Rebo. He's going to have so many questions for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, today is May the 4th. Today is Star Wars Day, and it's lineage. I was trying to think exactly how May the 4th be with you came to be. I mean, it is a pun, of course, but
Yeah.
what are its origins? So on Instagram, if you follow Holocron, the Holocron store, they put up a little thing that I had never seen before. I'll put it up right now on video, and I'll read it to everyone listening on audio. So celebrating Star Wars Day. The pun, May the 4th, has a history as far back as 1979. In 2008, Facebook groups started popping up using the pun, celebrating Luke Skywalker Day. Because A New Hope hit theaters on May 25th, that was the original day people would celebrate everything Star Wars, but the pun won out and it moved to May 4th. The first organized celebration of May 4th happened at the Toronto Underground Cinema in 2011, with trivia games, contests for best fan film and mashup, and other festivities. Taking the holiday beyond worldwide, astronauts aboard the International Space Station watched the original trilogy on May 4th, 2015. Since 2013, Disneyland and Disney World have held celebrations at their parks in celebration of Star Wars. Now, all over the world, people gather together to watch and celebrate their favorite franchise. So raise your lightsabers high, and may the 4th be with you all. That's a lot of stuff
cool.
I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's sweet.
See, because I thought May the 4th be with you was something fairly recent, but of course, time is like flying by now. But May 25th to me was always Star Wars Day because that was the first day that Star Wars: A New Hope was released.
Yeah.
So then that's when we would kind of celebrate it, when it wasn't kind of before the internet, but now with the internet, it's widely kind of publicized. And of course, if you go out to Disney Plus, you see a big May the 4th be with you on the Star Wars tile. And I think that's the first thing you see today. So, yeah. Comic book shops right now, a lot of retailers are celebrating. If you go out to your favorite place to shop, you'll probably be able to get discounts and free stuff too. And it is free comic book day as well. So you can possibly pick up a free Star Wars comic. Did you hit up a comic book store today, Zach?
No, I haven't had the chance, and I probably won't today. I know it's free comic book day, but probably won't be able to make that work with going to see the Phantom Menace in a little bit here.
Yeah. All right. Well,
But yeah,
I think that's pretty much it, guys. It is Star Wars Day, May the 4th, and it is, if you think about it, Star Wars month, because many Star Wars films were released in May. 501st Day was May 1st. George Lucas's birthday, I believe, is in May, and Colin's birthday is in May too. So
there we go.
Figure that, huh?
Mine was almost in May, but I missed it. My due date was May 1, but I came just shy.
Oh. So yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. Yeah, this is a special edition podcast. We wanted to do something on May 4th.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad everyone could join us. Thank you to everyone out there that supports the podcast. Even if it's just liking our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on all the socials, Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast, for helping us get to Japan. And that's in less than a year. And we'll have a lot of coverage there. And for Zach, my name is David. May the Force be with you.
Always.